over here, Bill. You can address it either to one of
In
them.
South Carolina, the governor is term limited. Unfortunately, the legislature isn't. Would you commit to be term limited if you were elected?
You're asking each of them to respond to that, I
All
assume.
three of them. Would you commit to being term limited?
Yes.
How many?
Two.
25
25.
terms? How many terms?
Two terms. I'm all for term limits in certain things, I agree with you.
Yes, 3-term limits.
I've had people that know politics tell me this is the worst answer in the world to give you. I'm gonna do it 1 term. We went to Europe and won the war in less than 4 years. I can straighten that office out in 12 months. I don't need to make it a career. It's not a stepping stone for me. I see changes that need to be made, and it's not gonna take long to do it. Thank you.
Andy, since you here, you can use this one.
That's all right. Have either you, Mr. Wagner, or you, Mr. Campbell, heard anything about this slush fund that may or may not exist?
What I read in the Anderson Independent today, and what was said in there looked like it was not a slush fund to me, based on what I read in that article. It was a fund that was set up by a previous administration. Don't know who it was there, existed there, according to what the solicitor told the paper, that it had been there when they got there, and it pays retirement benefits that they're required to pay, is my understanding. I know, other than that, I know nothing else what I read in the article.
Same way. I learned about it through the Anderson Independent. That's when I first heard about it, because I have no inner workings of the money that comes into the office. And so that's the first I heard of it.
Any other questions?
Sure.
Oh, you
Just
address
ask.
it. There's, over there, Andy, if you could get a mic to him. Wait just a moment so everybody can hear.
I don't have my, from time to time, I've read some of the local papers, and you see pictures of 20 or 25 people who were picked up in a drug suite. I've always wondered what happened to these people. Can one of you gentlemen tell me what's happened to them? Do they get slapped on the hand as they go? Do they go to jail for a year, or what happens to them? Anybody wish to answer that?
Well, I guess we probably all better answer that, but if they're picked up in a drug suite, that means there were warrants taken out on them and charges filed. What happens on them in our office depends on a lot of things. It depends on the severity of their record, depends on the quality of the case. If the case is better and the record is worse, then they're going to get more time. And also depends on the charge, especially, because some charges, they get picked up for simple possession, or they may be picked up for dealing methamphetamine. May be a first offense, it may be second, third, fourth, depending on the severity of their prior record. All those factors are considered every day. When we get a case in, we consider all those factors in trying to craft what we think the sentence will be. A lot of that is very complicated. A lot of that's based on what we think the judges will give them, based on prior sentencing histories. And quality of the case is key. You know, if it's a good case, you're gonna be able to do more with it than if it's a weak case. We find that out by looking at what we have in the file and by meeting with the narcotics officers, usually the ones that are responsible for these arrests. And lots of times, all the time, we pretty much take into their wishes or their input in what happens with them. But ultimately, they all go through court unless the case is weak or something. That there are some cases that are not prosecutable that usually we agree with the police on that, hey, you know, we'll have to dismiss this case, we can't prove it. Or the informant that was involved in the buy absconded and we can't find him anymore. That happens too. But ultimately, when you see that many arrested, most of them are going to be going through the court system on those charges.
This is an area that I know law enforcement gets upset about, is that they put a lot of, well, basically term sweat equity into a case. And when you have a roundup, typically that's been an ongoing investigation that's been going on for several months, and they take out arrest warrants, and then one night they go around and pop everybody and try to throw them in jail. And that cleans up the streets for a while, but what I hear from law enforcement is they're angry about what goes on because they never hear anything back. And that's been a problem, is that's why we have to work together. And when you have the sweeps, when I was down in Hampton County and Colleton County, we were involved with the drug roundups. We went with the sheriff's office. And while we didn't participate, we were there to help advise on legal matters and issues. And we worked with them from the get-go of those to the end. And they had a say, and that's what a problem we're having nowadays, is people say, I see their pictures, they got caught on a roundup. And then 2 months later, there's another roundup, they see the same people. And that's where the problem comes in, is that the office is not working with the cops. And they're not working to protect the community. I know the magistrate set the bonds, and we have no control over that, but there's some cases that the office needs to get involved in and ask the judges, quit setting bonds, set a high bond, because when you're a dope dealer, it's part of their game, it's part of their business. They know they're going to get arrested, and they know they're going to get right back out. And right now, they have the attitude that, hey, you just keep the status quo, don't do anything, and you'll get a light offer down the road. Just hang in there. Wait till your third offer. And that's where it's got to stop. We have got to get back to where, hey, here's an offer on a case, and you have to look at every case on a case-by-case basis. You have to analyze the evidence. You have to get input from law enforcement, because they'll tell you, hey, this case is not that good, get what you can out of it. But this guy here, he's a dealer, we need to go after him. And that's where we have to work with him hand in hand. And it puts forth some effort. And we make a reasonable offer, and it's not accepted, then by gosh, you need to put him on the trial docket. And learn, he has to learn, those people have to learn that those horns hook, and once they get that across to them, then things will start working out, because then people will start taking plea deals. When you offer something reasonable, they'll learn, hey, I better take it, because they need business. And that's what we got to get back to. We got to clean up the community.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell just stole a lot of my thunder. I agree with most everything he said. Before I made my decision to run, I was invited over to Anderson to meet with the narcotics officers and investigators, and they were fit to be tied. They said they never got any feedback on what happened to the cases. They definitely wanted a change made. If you've seen the paper and looked at it, it is the same people over and over again. That's ridiculous. My strong point on distribution of meth, if somebody gets to the level of distribution, even if it's the first time they've been called, you know it's not the first time they've done it, and they didn't just start distributing right away. I think first-time distribution meth dealers should go to prison for a short period of time. If they were to get a year, they've already spent several months in county, they get credit while they wouldn't do it for 3 or 4 months. I wouldn't want them to get used to it, and they wouldn't be scared to go back. All the guys, everybody hates to go to R&E. That's the worst part about it. So if they got a short term, we wouldn't have as many second times. Plus the word would get out. I've heard Judge Maddox on more occasions, he's a judge from Anderson, that when he gets to Oklahoma, he's never seen so many 2-day time served cases anywhere in his life. It's always time served for the first time, usually time served second time, maybe probation third time. I could give you a woman's name that had 5 trafficking meth charges and got a PR bond. It's unbelievable. But yet, I think finally she did get sentenced recently and went away. But she was getting out on PR bonds after being arrested 3, 4, 5 times for distribution of meth. That's just, it's ridiculous. I think PR bond, I'm sorry, personal recognizance. No money, just, you're out, you're gone, you're right back. I've had a lot of people that have talked to me since about campaigning, telling me some guy's in a wheelchair, and he told them he knows he's not going to prison. He's one of the biggest meth dealers in the county, and unfortunately, I knew who they're talking about. There are a lot of people out there. These people are telling me, that they'll file a complaint, the cops will come out and bust a meth lab, and before they get back home, the meth lab person's back home. So we need, and that's what, one of the things that got me started in this was the thing of wanting harsher sentence, and I don't think it's necessarily unreasonable. I'm not saying putting them away for 20, 30 years. In fact, I disagree with the other end of it. When you get somebody and you send them, 25, 30 years, if you haven't learned your lesson in 10 to 15 years, it's no good enough to keep paying for it. But it's like raising children. If you get them as soon as they start, then not only is it going to change their behavior, their friends are going to know it, it'll change their behavior. We need our solicitors at bond hearings. When I was in Richland County, that was part of our job. We went to every bond hearing. We had a rap sheet in our hand, And if you stand and tell the magistrate, this person's already got 3 or 4 arrests, that magistrate can't keep letting them out and not take a lot of heat. But somebody's got to be there and tell them and show them the rap sheet. Just got to start working hard. Thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions? Yes?
I got just an observation. These people are getting on PR repeatedly. They obviously are showing up for trial, so it sounds like PR is probably okay. You can't jail people for crimes they haven't been convicted of. So I'm a little apprehensive about that. Going, this management thing, I'm kind of curious about it. I have no idea how things work down here. But as deputies, are you all responsible for reviewing the cases, managing the cases of those attorneys who are under you, or not have attorneys who are under you now? And putting that the other way, if in fact you are responsible for managing the cases of the people, of attorneys who are under you, if that is in fact the case, why would the attorneys in your office be, I gather they're opposed to your candidacy for this office?
Well, what it comes down to is that when I was the deputy there, I don't micromanage the attorneys. They're professionals. They have a law degree. You don't have to go over every case with them. You stay involved in some of the bigger cases, more of the high-profile cases. But everyday, ordinary cases, no. And one of the reasons why they're against me is because I have a work ethic. And all the jobs I ever had, you had to show up on time and you had to be there. And that's been the biggest complaint, is that they don't show up on time. They show up at 10:30 to 11 o'clock. They